At 03:47 hours on January 24, 2026, alarm klaxons shattered the silence aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Deep within the Combat Information Center, radar operators watched in disbelief as multiple missile signatures appeared on their screens. Iran had just launched what they believed would be a devastating strike against America's most powerful warship. What the Iranians didn't know is that they had just made the worst mistake of their military history. They targeted the wrong carrier. This is the story of how Iran's entire missile strategy was exposed, humiliated, and neutralized in less than 4 minutes. To understand why this happened, you need to know what's been brewing in the Persian Gulf for months. When the USS Abraham Lincoln arrived in the region in September 2025, it wasn't a routine deployment. The carrier strike group was responding to escalating Iranian aggression. For years, Iran had been building what they called the carrier killer arsenal. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, all designed for one purpose: to sink an American supercarrier. Iranian military commanders had publicly boasted that their missiles could strike any US carrier within range. They called American carriers floating coffins and sitting ducks. But here's what Iran's leadership didn't understand. The Abraham Lincoln wasn't the same carrier their intelligence had studied for decades. In 2024, the Lincoln completed a modernization that made it one of the most advanced warships ever deployed: new radar systems, upgraded missile defenses, and something the Iranians had never encountered: a fully integrated naval integrated fire control system that could track and destroy incoming threats at ranges previously thought impossible. Iran's military intelligence was operating on outdated information. They thought they knew what they were attacking. They were catastrophically wrong. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps had been waiting for this moment. For months, they had tracked the Lincoln's movements. They had positioned their missile batteries along the Strait of Hormuz. They had practiced this exact scenario hundreds of times. Their plan was sophisticated, at least by Iranian standards. First, they would launch a wave of decoy drones to overwhelm the carrier's radar. Then, in chaos, they would fire their most advanced ballistic missiles, the Fateh 110 and the newer Desfur missiles, capable of reaching speeds of Mach 4. The Iranians believed they had cracked the code. They calculated that even American defenses couldn't stop this many incoming threats simultaneously. But there was a fatal flaw in their thinking. The USS Abraham Lincoln wasn't alone. It was the centerpiece of Carrier Strike Group 3, which included the guided missile cruiser USS Mobile Bay, equipped with 122 vertical launch cells loaded with SM-2 and SM-6 missiles, the most advanced ship-based anti-ballistic missile system in the world. The destroyers, USS Fitzgerald and USS Sampson, each carrying 96 additional launch cells. And, lurking somewhere beneath the Gulf's surface, 2 Virginia-class attack submarines capable of tracking and neutralizing any threat before it even launched. The Iranians thought they were attacking a carrier. They were attacking a floating fortress surrounded by the most sophisticated defensive network ever assembled. At 03:43 hours, Iranian forces began their assault. Radar stations aboard the Lincoln detected the first wave, 23 Shahed 136 drones launched from positions along the Iranian coast. In the Combat Information Center, the Tactical Action Officer made a call that would prove decisive: engage with secondaries, save the standards for the ballistic threats. The Lincoln's CIWS Phalanx systems, those white dome-shaped guns you see on Navy ships, spun up to 4,500 rounds per minute. The destroyer's 5-inch guns began coordinated fire. Within 90 seconds, every drone was destroyed, but this was just the opening act. At 03:45, the main event began. Iranian ballistic missile batteries in the Zagros Mountains lit off. 8 Desful missiles, each carrying a 450-kilogram warhead, arced into the night sky at Mach 4. Simultaneously, mobile launchers near Bandar Abbas fired a salvo of 6 Fateh 110 missiles, 14 missiles, all heading toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. This was Iran's Sunday punch, their best shot. Everything they had practiced. And here's where everything went wrong for Tehran. The Aegis combat system aboard the Mobile Bay had been tracking the Iranian missile batteries for hours. The moment those missiles launched, the system had firing solutions. "Vampires, vampires, vampires, 14 inbound," called out the radar operator. The response was instant and overwhelming. USS Mobile Bay launched 8 SM-6 missiles. These aren't ordinary interceptors. They can engage ballistic missiles at ranges exceeding 150 miles and can be retargeted mid-flight. USS Sampson and USS Fitzgerald each launched 4 SM-2 Block 4 missiles as a secondary layer. But the US Navy wasn't taking any chances. Something the Iranians had never anticipated then happened. The Lincoln launched 2 EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets that had been airborne as part of a routine combat air patrol. These aircraft carry the most sophisticated jamming equipment in the world. As Iranian missiles screamed toward their target, their guidance systems suddenly went haywire. GPS signals jammed, terminal radar seekers blinded by electronic noise. Of the 14 missiles Iran launched, 8 were destroyed in the boost phase by SM-6 interceptors before they even reached maximum altitude. 4 lost guidance and tumbled into the Gulf. 2 were engaged by SM-2 missiles in the terminal phase. Not a single Iranian missile came within 30 miles of the USS Abraham Lincoln. Total engagement time, 3 minutes, 47 seconds. The Iranians had spent years preparing for this attack. They had expended some of their most advanced weapons, and they accomplished absolutely nothing. Within hours, the entire world knew what had happened. U.S. Central Command released a statement confirming the engagement. They didn't gloat. They didn't need to. The results spoke for themselves. Inside Iran, the Revolutionary Guard scrambled to control the narrative. State media initially claimed the attack was a warning shot, and that they had chosen not to destroy the carrier. Nobody believed them. Intelligence analysts worldwide drew the same conclusion. Iran's entire anti-carrier strategy had been built on assumptions that were decades out of date. Their missiles couldn't penetrate American defenses. Their targeting data was wrong. Their electronic warfare capabilities were non-existent compared to U.S. systems. But the real blow came next. In the 72 hours following the failed attack, U.S. submarines tracked every Iranian naval vessel that left port. B-2 bombers from Diego Garcia flew deterrence missions over the Gulf. And the USS Abraham Lincoln? It continued its patrol as if nothing had happened. The message was clear. You took your best shot. You missed. And now you know exactly how outclassed you are. Iran learned 3 lessons that night. First, American carrier defenses are even more capable than previously believed. The SM-6 missile's ability to engage ballistic threats during the boost phase changes everything about missile warfare. Second, electronic warfare has become a decisive factor. The EA-18G Growlers didn't just assist, they neutralized an entire missile salvo without firing a single weapon. Third, and most importantly, attacking a U.S. carrier strike group is not just difficult, it's suicide. The Iranians thought they had a carrier killer arsenal. What they really had was an expensive way to prove American naval superiority. They launched missiles at the wrong carrier and discovered that in 2026, there is no right carrier to attack. If you want to see more videos about American naval dominance, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you think Iran's allies learned anything from this disaster, wait until you see what happened when the Houthis tried the same thing. That video is on your screen right now.